We are very happy as South Africa that one of the things you've chosen to do in DC is to spend a Saturday afternoon or evening with us on a piece of South Africa. As you can see, this is not one where you require any visas. But what makes it more special is that you've been able to become part of a global movement to celebrate the life, legacy, and values of Nelson Mandela. Up till a few days ago, the president, on the advice of the doctors, was describing Mr. Mandela's condition as serious and critical. Today, for the first time, the president described Mr. Mandela's condition as steady and improving. And whatever you may believe in, whether it is the power of prayer, whether it is the power of positive thinking, whether it is sending energy out into the world, I think that in one way or other, your prayers, your energy, and your words have resonated somewhere. Because when Mr. Mandela's daughter described him as watching TV with his headphones on, I don't think he was listening to the TV. I think he was listening to all of you, managing to cohere all your thoughts, your prayers, and your energy, so that he understood that he should get better. It's not that we are depriving heaven of a special person. I think on earth we just need him a bit longer. If we look at events in Syria, if we look at events in Egypt, if we look at events in Florida, maybe we just need Mr. Mandela a bit longer, because the example that I think he offers the world is a counter-instinctive example. It's an example that's based on a deep and profound African philosophy called Ubuntu, which means, in Mr. Mandela's words, I am because you are. We are people through other people, says Archbishop Tutu. Simply put, we are all interdependent and interrelated human beings. We cannot be without the other. Blacks cannot be without whites and vice versa. And men cannot be without women and vice versa. And human beings can't be without the entire creation and vice versa. And that's the profound philosophy on which Mr. Mandela and his movement, the African National Congress, and his country, South Africa, has based their entire philosophy of struggle. As young professionals, mostly of DC, the capital city, I believe that those are not simply political lessons. I believe those are lessons that go into the classroom, that go into the boardroom, that go into the games room, and that go into any room where people interact with each other. That the point of departure of our relationships, wherever we are, is that we are interdependent and we are because of the other. And sometimes we grow up in the cutthroat world of the boardroom, the caucus room, the games room, and so forth. We hone our killer instinct. And after so many years of honing that killer instinct, we have to ask ourselves, what have we achieved with it? We may have become individually successful, but have we become successful as a nation? Have we become successful as a human race? Have we become less conflictual? Have we become more peaceful? Have we got more justice, or do we have more laws? And sometimes we have laws, but we don't have morality. Sometimes we are legalistic, but we are not ethical. Sometimes we have an act of law, but we don't have an act of justice. And those are the questions swirling about. And those are the questions Mr. Mandela grappled with in the 1960s when he was jailed. He understood that he was in a courtroom. He understood that he stood in front of a judge. He understood that he was found guilty. But everyone today knows that being in a courtroom, sitting in front of a judge, being found guilty, does not mean that justice has been dispensed. Because we all recognize that the 27 years that he spent in prison have been 27 years of injustice, 27 years in which the world was robbed of one of the greatest human beings that could have altered then already the course of the world. And so what you come to celebrate is not simply a man, although it is great that we celebrate Nelson Mandela. But what we come to celebrate are the values that the world needs again. Because Mr. Mandela has found a way to make concepts which on the face of it we have made weak. The idea of negotiating when you should be asserting your will. The idea of compromising when you should be uncompromising. The idea of entering into dialogue when you should be winning the argument. Mr. Mandela has made all of those concepts very powerful concepts. And ordinary people need to reclaim the power of dialogue. Ordinary people need to reclaim the power of compromise. Ordinary people need to reclaim the power of negotiation. Because our leaders are in a different paradigm. Our leaders think giving in is an act of weakness. Our leaders think submission is what you do when you compromise. And we need to be able to show in our everyday life that we are followers of that great philosophy that people like Nelson Mandela stands for. It's for that reason that even when he could not be heard or seen in prison, his power radiated. Because the power of accepting his imprisonment in a dignified way, I think radiated far beyond it. The power of coming out. When, if there was one person in the world who the world would have forgiven for being vengeful or for wanting revenge, it would be Nelson Mandela. And yet he showed us the complete opposite. Not because he's a saint. Because Mr. Mandela is the first person to tell you he's not a saint. It is because he battled with his own soul. He understood that the heart is a finite organ. If you put more hatred in it, there's less place for love. If you put revenge in it, there's no place for compassion. And therefore, you've got to choose what it is that you fill your heart with. If you choose to fill your heart with anger, you make less place for positive energy. If you choose to fill your heart with vengeance, you have no place for love. And so those are the really important values that we come to celebrate here today. And so we know as a South African embassy that we are on a mission in the capital of the only superpower in the world. Humbly we say that we may have, because of Mr. Mandela, superpower status of our own. Because when the world sees the limitations of sorting things out militarily, they will turn to Mr. Mandela. If the world sees the limitations of grandstanding, they will turn to the compassion of Mr. Mandela. If the world sees the limitations of asserting yourself and intervening wherever you want to just because you have the might, they will turn to Mr. Mandela and they will look at his history to see what it is. I've used up all my somberness because I think that it's necessary that when we see young professionals like you who are raring to take your place in the boardrooms, in the caucus rooms, in the games rooms, in the classrooms, in the lecture rooms, wherever you do business, wherever you do your profession, then I think it's important that you have come together. You've taken the first step to celebrate Mr. Mandela. You've got to take the second step to embrace his values. That's what we have as South Africa, our precious resource. But, as I said at the beginning, Mr. Mandela is steady and improving. And I want to thank you very much on behalf of the South African government for your thoughts, for your prayers, and for your positive energy and your love for him. I want to thank you very much for the role that ordinary citizens of the United States played in securing the release of Mr. Mandela freedom for the South African people, and democracy, human rights, and freedom in South Africa as a whole. We know that it was probably not many of you, but certainly those who are a little bit older even than Greg, who refused then to drink our wine, and we hope you enjoy it today. Who refused then to eat of our food, and we hope you enjoy that today. Who refused to participate in our culture then, and we hope that you enjoy it today. Because today is a day for celebration. Mr. Mandela being in hospital is not a defeat. From that hospital bed, he has united us across the world. 18 cities in the United States over this period have come out to celebrate Mr. Mandela. We are working very hard, and maybe at some other point we'll speak to Greg and things to do in DC about how we can harness some of this energy to fulfill Mr. Mandela's birthday wish. And that is a wish that the children of Africa should never ever again experience death, mortality or morbidity by virtue of diseases and super specialty problems, health problems that they have. Siamese twins are born in Africa all the time. They can be separated if the facilities are there. Children are born with congenital heart diseases. They often die because they don't know that it can be cured. It has to be cured. Children die of a variety of different things. Children are afflicted by cleft palates, by a range of things that Americans take for granted, even in your broken health system. We must make an exchange. If you help us to build that super specialty hospital for Nelson Mandela in Africa, then we will help to make sure that the best examples of our health system can be brought to the United States as well. And that, I think, is the deal that we want to make. So that's really what I need to say to you. What I invite you to do today is really enjoy yourself on this piece of South Africa. And for those of you who haven't yet been to South Africa, there's something missing in your life. Many times the BBC has said that South Africa is one of the 5 places in the world that you must visit before you die. Those who have visited can expect their death at some time in the future. But I can tell you, your death will be far more satisfactory for having seen South Africa. You will know that you're alive. Where else can you eat the best seafood in a cave and 10 meters away, 5 whales are playing? Where else can you fly in a helicopter over the ocean and see a school of dolphins really just frolicking in the water? Where else can you go, as in Soweto, where they've turned the cooling towers into a bungee jump adventure between those cooling towers? The bad news is it's probably going to cost you something like $20 to do a bungee jump there. If you forgo the rope, it's free. And so I really want to exhort you. You have now been on a piece of South Africa. The next step is that you must go to the real South Africa. There is much that you can see, much that you can do, and there's so much salvation for the human soul there. Thank you very much. Welcome and enjoy yourself.
One quick thing before I ask the ambassador to help us. The members of the South African Embassy to stand up and just identify yourself so I can.
They should be standing up.
I see a few of them. So who's
Just wave, just wave.
Who's here so we can identify them?
Let me see. Okay, DCM. That's our Deputy Chief of Mission, Johnny Maloto. He has been pulling this entire liaison together. So just stand forward, wave, and then they can see who it is. And then all the rest of our staff, just wherever you are, just wave so that they can see who you are. And they will lead the dance.
All right. Before we actually start the dance, we're going to ask everyone over here, because we're going to pretty much do it over here. This crowd.